Hi guys, my name is David and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be reviewing Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. So a while ago I uploaded a collection video of all my Anne Rice books. I've only got a small collection, but I thought okay, I will make a video showing all you guys what books I've got by this author. And I'll have a picture up here and a link will be down below in case you want to check out that video. But in that video I discussed about wanting to start reading Anne Rice's work purely because of the author's death. So I started off with this book and I had never read it before. I knew that there was a movie based on this book as well, but I've never seen it before. But I never really knew what the story was outside of it being about vampires. So this is going to be kind of a review / discussion video about me reading this book for the very first time. But before I go any further, please do not forget to subscribe, ring that bell and give this video a thumbs up. I will also have a link down below to my Goodreads account in case you want to check out what I'm reading and message me or whatever. And as usual, this is going to be a spoiler-free video and this is going to be my own thoughts and feelings regarding this book. And I just want to insert here, guys, that despite the fact that Anne Rice is actually deceased now, this is going to be my honest thoughts about not just this book, but Anne Rice's writing style. So, this book, in case you didn't know already, is a horror book. You can kind of debate whether it's fantasy or not, but vampires to me are horror. So this book focuses around a Pacific vampire called Lewis, who is sitting in a room and he wants his life story to be heard and to be not really understood or accepted, but he just wants to talk about his life story. And I think he also wants to talk to someone as well to try to get a lot of stuff off of his chest. So there is this boy who I'm not entirely sure that we ever know what his name is, but he is recording what Lewis is actually saying. So yeah, the book is a kind of a story within a story type of thing. And throughout the story, it kind of like breaks to the interview type of sections where Lewis and the boy kind of comment about what's going on. And this boy gets excited and intrigued by what he actually hears from Lewis. And right off the bat, Lewis tells this boy, look, I'm a vampire. That's not hidden from them. He actually knows that Lewis is a vampire. But Lewis tells him, look, despite me being a vampire, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to put you in any danger. I just want to tell you my life story. And Lewis starts off when he was a mortal and when he was turned into a vampire and basically up to the present day. I'm pretty sure we find out about Lewis's childhood as well at the start and about his family and his parents, and when he was turned into a vampire by an individual called Lestat, who is kind of a main figure and character in most of the Vampire Chronicles books. Lestat is kind of the extreme polar opposite of Lewis. Well, to actually start off with, anyway. Lestat is very cruel. He does stuff for his own enjoyment. He enjoys basking in the suffering of others. He enjoys causing pain and misery. And when he turns Lewis into a vampire, they kind of, I wouldn't say have a bond with each other, but they hang around with each other. And they stay on this plantation, which, little trigger warning here, guys. This book, at the start, does mention slavery. It never drops the N-word, not once. It's never racist at all. Not even in the slightest, but it does mention slavery. So if that may trigger you, then be warned about that. But once again, this book is not racist whatsoever. And while Lewis is coming to terms with the fact that he is a vampire and he does have all these new bloodlust needs. And Lestat and Lewis go off and they try to train Lewis up to being a vampire. And they go on a hunt with each other, and we see Lewis's first kill when he kills some slaves that are in a wooded area. And throughout this book, it's just about Lewis's struggle about coming to terms with the fact that he is a vampire, and he kind of questions the fact that he doesn't know what it means to be a vampire, and he wants to understand his existence. And he basically wants to find out answers to more about vampires and about being one himself. Yes, he has a lot of questions and struggles within himself, he really does. But despite the fact that he is a vampire, he's not necessarily evil, but saying that, he's not necessarily good either. He tries to be different than Lestat. He does have a strong, I wouldn't say hatred, but dislike for Lestat. Not just turning him into a vampire, but Lestat's personality. But Lewis, even though he tries to be a good man, he does have this bloodlust which he cannot control. And we also discover that there are some vampires which can suppress their need to drink human blood, and they drink the blood of animals such as cows and rats and all that type of stuff. As I think in their minds it makes them feel a little bit better about what they're doing and not drinking the human blood and not drinking human blood and killing people. I'm not really sure about that. And as the book goes on, we do discover a new character which is called Claudia. Now Claudia, at the start of it, turns out to be a small girl that has just lost her mother. And Lestat convinces Lewis to turn this little girl that's just lost her mother, and this girl's grieving over the corpse of her mother, into a vampire. Now, when someone gets turned into a vampire, obviously they don't age at all, and they can basically live forever. So when Lewis turns Claudia into a vampire at such a young age, she ultimately cannot age physically, but internally she grows up. So for example, I'm not sure how old Claudia is in the book, so if you think about maybe 10 or 12 years of age, but as years goes on, she may, obviously she grows up, but she has the minds of a 50-year-old, if that made any sense at all. And Lestat and Claudia, they have a kind of a bond with each other. They go out hunting with each other and killing each other, and killing people as well with each other. And because Claudia appears to be a small girl, Lestat and Lewis treat her as such. When they are out and about, they carry her and they treat her like a little girl. I hope I'm making sense, guys, I really am. But as time goes on, Claudia questions what she is as well. She thinks that Lestat turns her into a vampire, but she finds out that Lewis turns her into a vampire. And there is a kind of a sort of love interest between Lewis and Claudia. It's never really set in stone, but it is implied that they physically love each other. And at first, this is really strange. Like, how can a adult love what appears to be a little girl, even though, as I said, she is not a little girl anymore. She just appears to be a little girl. So that was kind of a weird thing at first, but as time goes on, you accept it, and it's no longer as weird as it appears to be. But it's kind of strange as well that the concept of love for a vampire, I'm pretty sure they actually say in this book that a vampire cannot express true human emotions such as love, but it's not really implied whether it's love between two people, like a husband and a wife, or a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or whether it's love for a friend or a sibling. So as the story goes on, it's just about Lewis and Claudia trying to find out what it is to be a vampire. And they go on a journey to discover more vampires. They say, oh, there's got to be more vampires out there. And they come across a theatre that has a very weird theatre show about being vampires. It's very strange, and it introduces loads of new, unusual characters. And we find out that because there are so few vampires in the world, it's kind of implied that it's forbidden for a vampire to kill another vampire because there's so few of them in the world. And at this point in the story, something has happened to Lestat and he's gone away. I won't say exactly what has actually happened to him because it is made crystal clear in the book what's actually happened to him. But for a big chunk of the book, especially in the middle, Lestat isn't actually in it. He's actually gone somewhere that's as vague as I want to actually make it. So that is my kind of review for Interview with a Vampire. Sorry if I've been super vague. I've been trying to steer away from spoilers, but hopefully I've given you enough information. So what did I like about this book and about Anne Rice's writing style? I like the fact that this is a very realistic vampire story. I remember I actually read about half of Empire of the Vampire by J. Christoph, which, as I can remember, he said that he was inspired by this book. And in that book, it's set in a fantasy type of world where all this strange fighting and events happen that couldn't possibly happen in our world. But in this book, this is a very realistic portrayal of life in our world today and what it would be like if a vampire or a group of vampires were living in our world today. And it's very grounded in reality, and that's what I liked about it. I did actually like the characters. I did like Claudia, Lestat and Lewis, even though I liked him at different levels, but I did actually like the characters in that, in this book. And I did actually like going on this journey with Lewis and finding more about his life and about this world and his relationships between Claudia and Lestat and other characters as well. So what did I dislike about this book? It's unlike any other horror book that I've ever read. It's not bloody and gory to the extreme. Yes, it does have loads of blood and gore in this book and it is violence, but it's not over the top violence, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be all blood and guts and disgusting on every single page. The writing style, it did take me a while to get used to it, but I did eventually. And some of the characters in this vampire theatre, I didn't really care much for. But I put that down to the fact that this book mostly focuses on our three main characters who I've mentioned repeatedly throughout this video. So in conclusion, if you are into horror, and if you have never read anything by Anne Rice before and you're wondering about where to start, I would definitely recommend that you read this. It's a very good vampire story that's not overly gory and disgusting and scary all the time, but it's a very, very good story. I can see why a lot of people are fans of this book. I'm not completely sold on this book, even though I did actually like it, but I am going to be reading the other books in the Vampire Chronicles series, as well as some of the other Anne Rice books that I have in my room. This book, in my opinion, isn't perfect, but what it does bring to the table is a new outlook on vampires, that vampires aren't necessarily just scary. They can be scary and sexy. They can be charismatic, they can be charming, they can be dangerous, they can be whatever you want them to actually be. But I would just go into this book with an open mind, and if you come out of this book loving it, that's great. If you come out of this book thinking, oh, this book isn't for you, then that's also great. But I would really recommend that you at least give it a go. So what am I going to rate Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice? I'm going to rate this book a 4 stars out of 5. So that's it, guys. That is my review on this book. Let me know down below if you have read this book. What did you think about it? What do you think about Anne Rice as an author as a whole? So with all that said and out of the way, have a great day, read some awesome books, and I will see you all in my next video.